If you are having car problems, this is the episode for you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Ridwanullah family. Welcome to a new episode of the Hussein Barbaar show. Whoa. I don't know where that was going. I'm your host, Hussein Barbaar, working to help you build your dream life in this dunya and in the akhirah for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Verily, all praise and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, owner, and sustainer, the one who's worthy of all worship without any associates or intermediaries. And may the peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon the most esteemed leader and most honorable teacher, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family, his companions, and those who follow him until the day of judgment. Allahumma ameen. And yes, you did hear right. We're talking about car problems. So, if majority of us have beaters, you know what I mean? Like if you have a really nice car, even then it'll still help. And I think there's a major lesson in health and wellness related to the car. So just stick with me. I have roughly about 7 minutes to try to explain all of this. Because I gotta go to Maghrib, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. If you have a salah coming up for you, please pay attention to that, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So, one of the most important aspects of your car are the fluid levels, right? So, you know, I, right now for me, I would say I'm probably not a beginner with cars and I'm not like mechanic level, right? Like I'm not there yet, like especially at the highest level, right? I'm like a really good intermediate, you know, probably could, you know, pretend to be a mechanic. You know what I mean? Let's just put it like that. And obviously, having driven a car for probably more than 2 decades now. Subhanallah, I'm kind of aging myself. More than 2 decades. One of the most important aspects of your car that I've realized is making sure that the fluid levels are good, right? And if you don't know about this, it's good to learn about it, especially if you are a man, right? And even if you're a woman, it's good to just know about these things. And if you could care less about it, it's not a problem. But pay attention to the lesson that this has taught me that you can take for yourself as well, that I've taken for myself, for my physical health and wellness by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are 6 things that you should look for in your car to make sure that your fluids are properly balanced, right? You don't want to have too much and you don't want to have too little. And some of these things are easy to do, and some of these things are a little bit more challenging to do. You might need a little bit more knowledge and tools and understanding to get it done. But it's yet simple enough to know and understand it, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. The first thing is your engine oil, right? Make sure that your engine oil is at the proper levels and you're genuinely and generally trying to take care of that. Second is your transmission fluid level. Obviously, this is not something that you would be topping off yourself. You could, but make sure that you know how to balance it properly. The third one, and I'm not actually looking at a list, I'm just looking at the timer, by the way. So if you ever see me looking down, the third one is the coolant level, right? The coolant and antifreeze level, which is making sure that your car doesn't overheat and things of that nature. The fourth one is your brake fluid. The fifth one is the power steering fluid, and then the sixth one is your windshield wiper fluid. Um, if there are anything, if there for the mechanics that are in the house watching the show, let me know if I'm missing anything, right? But these are the exact things and fluids that you should keep track of to make sure that they are in the proper levels. And for a little bit, I sensed that my transmission. Obviously, I've always kept track of the other stuff, but the transmission fluid, at least on my car, the Honda Pilot, was a little bit hard to make sure that it's in the proper levels. And one of the things that I've learned is that you have, like, when you're checking the other fluids, you have to make sure that the car is off and cooled down, and that you're doing it kind of first thing before you turn on the car. But when it comes to the transmission fluid, you have to turn the car on and have it running for a little bit, and then you check the levels to make sure that it's in the proper places and things of that nature. So just a little quick wisdom that I picked up regarding that. And one thing I realized by making sure my specifically, obviously the other ones as well, but specifically the transmission fluid is in the proper levels, is that I noticed when it was when this is the hindsight, right? I Once I put it in the proper levels, I noticed that the car was using less energy and effort to drive and get around, meaning I got more gas mileage out of a full tank, roughly about 50 miles per gallon, which is significant in the grand scheme of things. So every 2 weeks or every week or every 2 weeks or so, I'm getting like 100 miles extra by making sure that my car fluids levels are in the proper levels. Now, the amazing lesson that I picked up from that I learned from that, in and of its own, there's a lot of things to pick up. In the next 2-3 minutes, I want to explain to you a major lesson that I learned from that. So, making sure that the fluids are in the proper level on the car allowed me to realize that, um, it used less energy to do the same work. So that made me realize the fluid levels of the body is more urgent and important for you to keep track of and make sure that they are in the proper levels, right? And the healthcare professionals are the ones who know a lot more about this. So making sure that your blood work is done, right? And making sure that your sugar levels are good, your cholesterol levels are good, your thyroid levels are good, and so much more, right? That I can't think of at the top of my head right now. Um, but these are the top ones that come to my mind, right? And things of that nature. And so many other variables and criterias that you would look at, to make sure that your body is in a proper place and in the proper situation by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, making sure that you're getting your blood work done every 6 months, at the very least once a year, is going to be very, very important. And this is something that I struggle with, honestly. But I try to take care of myself as best as possible. And like all the macronutrients, that's another thing that I'm thinking about is like, do you have the proper nutrition in your body, right? From the macronutrients to the micronutrients. The macronutrients is like proteins, fats, and carbs. And the micronutrients are like the vitamins and minerals. And all of the other details that you could look at in terms of your body is very, very important. And one of the things that I learned also from that is that on your lowest energy days, there are some days, whether you're fasting or going through menstruation for the women and things of that nature, is that one of the hacks that I've learned is that if you eat enough protein the day before, you won't have an energy crash during the days of your most taxing time, and things of that nature. So that's what I wanted to kind of put out there for you, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, so that you can start paying attention to these things and the signs and the symptoms that your car is giving you, so you can fix these things. And more importantly, and most importantly, is that your body's signs and symptoms, right? As well as your psyche, right? To know these things and to understand these things is going to be very, very important. So I'm going to leave you with saying, make sure your car's fluid levels are in the proper places, and make sure your body's fluid levels are in the proper places, proper levels, I should say. Make sure your car's fluid levels are in the proper amounts, and make sure that your body's uh, that's the timer for me to go. So make sure your body's fluid levels are in the proper amounts by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khair, Ridwanullah family, for tuning in to a brand new episode of the Hussein Barbaar Show. I'm your host, Hussein Barbaar, checking out by saying, never give up on building your dream life in this dunya and in the akhirah for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.